Hi Phedias.
Hi Christina.
Thank you very much for taking the time today to talk with us.
The pleasure is mine.
So Phedias is a film enthusiast and critic, and today he will share his thoughts on Michelangelo Antonioni's Italian film L Avventura, The Adventure, which premiered in 1960 at the Cannes Film Festival. So Phedias, would you like to tell us a bit more about Anna's disappearance in the film?
Yes, that's the first question people have while watching the film. What happened to Anna? Where is she? Was she gone? But the film doesn't give us an answer at all. And it's called The Adventure, not The Disappearance, which suggests to me that the central focus of the film is not Anna and her disappearance, which is something you would expect at the time, because we think it's the main character, and the main character disappears. Something similar happened with Psycho Hitchcock at the same year. It's a great coincidence. But yes, I think the film is more about what Anna's disappearance shows about the other characters. How do they react to the interests in the other characters, and how they react to Anna's disappearance.
Very interesting. So, what about the discontents of modernity? I find it interesting how the characters seem to search for Anna with no true conviction, much like they're searching for meaning and connection in their own lives. Yet their search is unfocused and interrupted by other distractions and priorities. Well, in my view, this creates a parallel. One of these distractions is the development of romantic relationships, particularly through Sandro, who relentlessly pursues love affairs but remains unsatisfied, as his desperation stems from deeper existential issues. And indeed, the relationships are a focus in the film. What do you think about this growing love story?
The love story between Sandro and Claudia is indeed a central part of the film. Basically, we don't learn about Anna's disappearance, but we learn a lot about these characters through how they react to disappearance. Sandro has to increasingly try to appear anxious and to want to find Anna. Within 24 hours of her disappearance, he has already kissed her. There is that scene where he kisses Claudia, grabs her and kisses her, and Claudia moves away, but she's confused, which suggests that she's I think at that point she is torn between her desire to find her friend and desire for Sandro. Gradually she falls in love with Sandro, or we might discuss whether she was in love with Sandro, but the relation develops and gradually they forget Anna. It's like, I would say, it's like they cannot stand the absence of a person. Sandro needs a girlfriend. It doesn't matter who she is. He wants to have someone there. And Claudia seems to generally fall for it. But is it the real love? Antonioni interrogates basically the relationship.
Yeah.
And Sandro, it seems that the love and intimacy is more like an attempt to fill the time, either like flipping a coin or playing a game of solitaire. And by the end of the film, Claudia realizes that the love is not the key to happiness, as Sandro is shown to go on with a prostitute. So what is his love? What did he feel? What do these characters feel about each other in the end?
He's like, it's perpetually he's searching, and his care for Anna's disappearance is disappearing.
I would like to read a quote by Pauline Kael on this. "Too shallow to be truly lonely," Pauline Kael wrote. "There are people trying to escape their boredom by reaching out to one another and finding only boredom once again." And it's not a coincidence that the characters are middle or upper class characters, because those characters have enough time in their hands to show us how people spend their free time in modernity. While if you have like the neorealism workers, you see all the drudgery and they don't have time to think much. So yes, it's appropriate that Antonioni uses the upper and middle classes in the film. And he was criticized. In Italy at the time, every film that was neo-realist, it was critiqued as problematic.
So, Phedias, what do you think about the ending of the film?
Tell me, Fred, what do you think? I'm curious, actually. What do you think happens? Does she forgive him or not? That's a good question.
Does it matter, really?
I think it matters. It's the final gesture of the film, and it's shown slowly that she reaches and starts to stroke him. I think it's Claudia realizing
like
that the love is not a key to happiness and maybe it's impossible, and maybe she sees herself in Sandro as well, and that's why she's forgiving.
Yeah.
She realizes that also she couldn't stand the absence of her friend and went to Sandro. But mostly I think she realizes that love is something more complicated than what she thought.
Yes, it's
and
like
she's more jaded, I think.
It's like she reaches consciousness and she's starting to realize what the viewers have been seeing them illusioned and going through. It's like now she's starting to catch up with the viewers, in my opinion, in the piece.
Yeah, at least the viewers that managed to stay till the end of the film. Because people are not used to slow films anymore.
So, talking about the restless and unsatisfied behavior of the characters that we've been talking about with the love story, we can also maybe see this through the camera work. For example, the camera often lingers in the same place as if it cannot let go, it's unsatisfied itself. So just as the characters are alienated in their relationships, the camera seems to treat them similarly. Their passions contrast sharply with the cold mechanical environment around them. Additionally, the camera maintains a distance, emphasizing this connection between the characters and their surroundings, the characters themselves, and between the audience and the characters.
Yes, the camera, I would say, often lingers after the characters are gone, which shows, I think, the dominance of the landscape. The landscape is like a character in the film, it's equally important. And we see the characters often off-center and dominated by the landscape, and the landscape in the Aeolian Islands is a barren landscape, and so you have off-center characters in the island. It's like the reflection of the barrenness of the center at the center of the characters' lives, I think. And also, often the characters are shown not directly facing each other, so you see the back of one and the other, and they often look past each other, like it's not like the usual shot, reverse shot that you get in Hollywood films.
It's like they don't even talk to each other, they're talking to something else. Like this, again, this disconnection between them.
Yes.
And also for me, it feels like this distance we have with the characters is like the societal circumstances that brought this alienation between them. It's like we are set to observe it and like it's engulfing them.
Yes, it's like we're the guilty conscience of the couple, that we still remember Anna and we examine their relationships. Like the camera is like our proxy in a sense, I would say.
So there was this scene that I found a bit abrupt, like how it developed, and I didn't really understand it. It's specifically the scene where Sandro drops the ink on his paper, on the paper
of another guy, of a young architect. I think the film answers this question, because we learned before that Sandro used to be an architect and then he went into real estate to get more easy money. And I think the guy, the young architect there, reminded him of his youthful enthusiasm and dreams that he had. And out of bitterness, he throws the ink to make the job of the other. It's an act of jealousy, I think, and bitterness.
The volatility in Sandro's behavior that is seen in the love life is seen here in this scene as well.
What do you mean by volatility?
The easiness in which he just acts, and it seems
that he acts. It seems that he acts like spontaneously.
No.
Spontaneously searching for people, giving into his.
It's like instinctively animalistically, in some sense. So I would say the main theme or the main discontent that we can see between the characters is reaction to modernity and a form of alienation.
Yes, the characters are alienated both from each other, especially from each other, but also from their own dreams and the society around them. And this was something that was that affected a lot of directors, especially during the 60s. There was this new culture of mindless consuming arising, and directors like Antonioni and Godard and Pasolini interrogated this new society that came into being. But while Pasolini and Godard are very critical and they think it's terrible and we need to overcome it by a revolution or destroy it or something. Like, I think Pasolini is a bit nihilistic that things can change. Antonioni is not merely critical. He shows and poses questions and tries to find potential in modernity. He believes we need to find new feelings to feel the new world we're creating. And to me, Antonioni's approach reminds me of Walter Benjamin, who also tries to find a meaning in modernity after the catastrophe of World War I. And I can read a relevant quote.
Yes.
Experience has fallen in value amid a generation which from 1914 to 1918 had to experience some of the most monstrous events in the history of the world. A generation that had gone to school in horse-drawn streetcars now stood in the open air, amid a landscape in which nothing was the same except the clouds, and at its center, in a force field of destructive torrents and explosions, the tiny, fragile human body. So the barbarism and poverty Benjamin refers to here is not the colloquial kind, but rather it's like spiritual and moral poverty resulting from the society we live in. And but both he and Antonioni, they want to see how these huge changes that they lived through, Benjamin through the First World War until 1940, Antonioni Second World War in the 60s, they try to find potential, they are all nihilists. And my final comment would be this. We don't have directors like Antonioni today, or Godard. Why? I think most directors today either make nihilistic works like David Fincher or Lars von Trier or Lanthimos, or tend to seek refuge from modernity in the cult of love, like Wim Wenders, the late Wenders, and Leo Carax, Correia, and others. And you have also on the left the anodyne humanism of the Dardenne brothers and Ken Loach. But none of these people are addressing what is the actual problem of modernity. They all just they show the problem, but they don't try to interrogate and find some satisfying answer.
So, Phedia, thank you so much for this insightful analysis.
The pleasure is mine. I love talking about my favorite films.
Okay, so is it one of your favorite films?
It's definitely my top 10, but it's also, I mean, I'm not even sure if it's my favorite Antonioni film. Antonioni was on a roll. He made the trilogy, which is the L Avventura, La Notte and l'Eclisse. Those three films I think are equally great. They need to be seen holistically as a trilogy of its contents. And then there is also The Passenger and Blow Up, his English-speaking masterpieces. But I think the trilogy itself is, I would count it as my favorite trilogy of films, for sure.